CDH, ready to talk to you on another 5-Minute Friday. Today, I thought I would give you a little taste of some of the stuff that I talked about last week in a webinar that is available if you want to download that and watch that, talking about Office 365 groups and data governance. So, the idea here is that things are really changing with Office 365 groups. But if you kind of bend with the wind, then you're going to get the full advantage and benefit out of using Office 365 groups. So people who've worked with data governance and trying to use retention policies basically for documents know that the traditional way to do that in SharePoint is with the record center, and you have to use the content organizer, which performs your record routing and create information management policy. And all of that relies on pre-planning and designing some complex information architecture with, taxonomy and content type syndication, and basically controlling how sites are created and making sure that they're all set up with your content types and your taxonomy. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And that's a traditional way to do it, but it's awfully rigid. And that approach is not really that well designed for use with Office 365 groups, which are really designed to empower users. They really kind of throw out the traditional data governance rule book. They're designed to allow users to create site at will, and the sites don't have, by default, they don't have any metadata and no real, other than the document content type, there's not really any way to control that content. And now you can control the content types. You can use a thing called P&P site provisioning and apply create a site from a provisioning template. But what I'm talking about here is what can you do in the box as opposed to having to go to all that trouble and sort of fighting against that wind that is blowing as far as empowering users. So, let's take a look at what you can do with data governance in SharePoint Online in Office 365 groups. So if I go to an Office 365 group site, I've got a document library here, and you can see I've got some documents in here, and it is inside of a public group, an Office 365 group. And the users want to be able to set this up quickly, be agile, be able to organize their content the way they see fit. So there's no metadata, it's just documents people upload, and you want to be able to free people to work that quickly without having to make a call to IT to do their work. So, but if you do want to impose some governance, what I would suggest you do is you use what are called policy labels, and you can predefine those centrally in the data governance in the Security and Governance Center, which I'm going to show in a second. And when you do, you get these labels here. So I select a document and I can apply labels. And what I would suggest you think about doing if you're trying to impose some data governance in your organization is for your Office 365 groups, you create a category, something like this one, transitory, and you apply that by default. And you basically tell your users that content that they want to be able to retain, they need to mark it at a higher level category like work in progress or business record. And you can use different time periods for this. These are just examples. And you can also define types like product quality assurance. We're in a product design site, so you can provide more specific categories like that. So you just apply that category, or you're putting it in the hands of the user basically to apply that category to preserve their content. So again, it's data governance combined with user empowerment. So but what if your users aren't going to do it, or it's too mission critical for you to preserve that content? What do you do? So what I want to show you is another great feature if you want to apply a policy that's going to be applied based upon the content automatically without any action on the part of the user. So if you go to the Security and Compliance Center, of course you have to be an administrator of security and compliance to do that. Click on that. You come in here, and you have a section here called classifications. And in there, you've got labels, label policies, and sensitive information types. And the labels that we saw on the site before for transitory, work in progress, business record, product quality assurance, you can see all those here, and those are designed to be applied by the user. But you've also got these other ones like Australian financial records and US bank data. These are designed to be applied automatically. And let me show you how you do that. So if you want to come in here and say, let's say I wanted to preserve Canadian financial records, pretty soon I'm going to run out of countries in this demo. You can come in like that, and I'll put in a description if you need to, and then you turn on your retention, and let's say in Canada they want you to keep that stuff for 10 years. So you fill that in, and then you can decide what happens afterwards. You can either delete it automatically, or you can just leave it in place, or you can have somebody take a look at it. So anyway, once you do all of that, you've got your label, but that's just a label. How does the label get applied, right? Well, the way the label gets applied is with a policy, and it takes you right to the next screen, which is really what it's going to do, is allow you to make a label policy. Now, if I wanted to make one of those policies that is available to the users, like we just saw in the Office 365 group SharePoint site, you would hit publish label, and then you can define where that label is applied. And one of the really nice things about that is it applies either in basically anywhere in your Office 365 tenant. The same labels can be applied to email, SharePoint, OneDrive, Office 365 groups. And if you want them to be more granular, like it's an email specific policy, you can do that as well. But what if you want to auto apply a label? That's what I came here to show you. So if I come in here and I hit auto apply, then when I come in next, now I can apply the label to content that contains sensitive information. So if I hit next and choose financial, I get by the way, these are a bunch of built-in categories that have been created. You can also design your own custom using a bunch of more granular rules or create rules of your own. But if I come in here and I hit Canadian financial data, you can see that what it looks for is credit card number, because that's a global format, same in all around the world. And it also looks for Canada bank account numbers, which also have a very specific format. And it's pretty smart about it. It doesn't just look for numbers in that format. It actually looks for that in the context of words and phrases that define that make it more likely that it actually is a Canadian financial record. And you hit next, and then you hit next, and then you apply it. Okay, sorry, I knew I was missing a step. We have to apply it to Canadian financial data. Next. Locations is what's next. It's not giving me that. Okay. Oh, duh, need a name. Canadian financial data. Yeah, and then the next step is to apply locations, and you can do, as I said, all locations, or you can choose specific locations. And in this case, we're just going to do these SharePoint sites, and hit next. And it may take a delay here, but basically, there we go. And then it takes about a day for the policy to really get provisioned out there. And then after that, it's going to basically detect content automatically that contains that information, and it will apply that policy automatically to it. So give it a try. And one thing I will say is kind of a foretaste is if you look at the e-discovery policies in SharePoint, which are down here under search and investigation, e-discovery, they're using artificial intelligence to go way beyond just looking for words and phrases to actually train the system to recognize documents. And I expect that you'll start seeing that spreading throughout many areas in Microsoft's technologies, because they're really investing in that. And I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing some artificial intelligence being applied to create these information management policies for records retention. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time.